Before we get started, the first thing on the agenda is the minutes of October the 4th. Hopefully everybody got an opportunity to look over those. Were there any additions or subtractions from that? All right.
Yes. You speaking of the minute?
Yes, from October the 4th.
We talked about the responsible contracting policy, and I read this without, what's going on with it? Did it disappear, go out in the
It'll
cloud?
be on the next agenda.
Why is it not on this
The
agenda?
next agenda.
Why is it not on this agenda,
Because it'll
Chair?
be on the next agenda.
Madam Chair,
You asking me a question, I'm giving you a response.
no, you're not, Madam Chair, why is it not on this agenda?
It'll be on the next agenda.
That's not answering my question.
It is.
You're playing
I'm
games.
not playing games, Commissioner.
Then
And I'm getting ready to move
When
on
we
without
spoke
answering the
of-
question.
When we
The
spoke of
next item
this,
on the agenda is committee appointments. Were there any committee appointments?
oh, you slimy, that is so slimy.
There are no appointments for this month. I did include a list of our current vacancies.
And for anybody that's listening, we have a lot of board and vacancies that need to be filled. We have the Brownfield has 2 vacancies that are 3-year terms. The cemetery board has 1 vacancy and it's a 5-year term. The construction board of appeals is a 3 to 7 member board and it's 2 years. And we have 4 openings. We filled 2 of those, three of those. The Downtown Development Authority has 3-year terms and there's an opening there. The Income Tax Oversight Committee has a 1-year term, 2 representatives from each of the district's business, nonprofit, non-resident, and resident, and there's 8 vacancies on that. The Planning Commission has 3-year terms and there's 3 vacancies for the Planning Commission. And we're taking applications for citizen reps on all of these committees, so if anybody's listening or anybody's here that wants to serve, there are openings on those particular boards.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we were gonna get an example to reply on the last meeting, was it this, that's what you had asked for?
Why?
If there was anything concerning the last meeting, is that what you asked? What was that you asked at first?
The first one, the minutes, so we were going, no, I was asking the committee if they had any additions or corrections to the current minutes. So we get these and then we have read them over if there was any mistakes or errors to those minutes. So the minutes, she typed them up from the last meeting,
Okay,
and so they're in here. So
because
if there was any like thing that was missed that we didn't talk, that we talked about, if there was something that was not put in here.
something that was from the last meeting? and we
No,
can
that's not what that
comment on?
is. It is asking about like any additions or corrections, something that we talked about that wasn't included in these minutes.
But
Any
if
additions?
there's something here from the last meeting that we can comment on that was from the
In
attorney.
the comment sections, you can make comments, but that's not what I was asking.
Okay, but there will be a part that.
At the end of the meeting, so comments or adjournment, you'll be able to make any comments about
Okay.
that if you'd like to.
If I may.
So the next item on the agenda is the public hearing, and I'll open that, have Mr. Little open that item up. And any other comments can be made during the comments in the comment section. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And if I might just, a reminder, when we do public hearings, we do the presentation, then we do the public comment.
Could you say that in the mic, Mr. Little, so
Yes,
people
I'm
can hear you?
Yes, just as a reminder, when we do public hearings, first is a presentation, then public comments. Anybody in the audience that has comments, and then after that, anybody else that wishes to. We are doing a substantial amendment, which simply means that we're moving money from one section of the plan to another, and that the amount is larger than the minor amendments are. As a reminder, the CDBG program operates on first a 5-year consolidated plan. We did that in 2021. After the 5-year consolidated plan is done, each respective year, there's an annual action plan. And in this particular amendment that we're doing, we're moving 44,700 and, just a second if I can. Just tune in with me, okay. We're moving $44,782.19 from the 2020 year CDBG grant. We're moving $84,493.16 from the 2021 CDBG grant and $47,481.08 from the 2022 grant. These amounts are being moved to the sidewalk program. And our priority needs and goals, we have 1, expand and improve public infrastructure facilities, which includes the sidewalk program. 2, affordable housing development and preservation, housing rehab, which we're still actively doing. 3, public service and quality of life improvements. That typically provides programs like the summer youth program, the community food and nutrition program, the food bank program. And this is our 2023 action plan that we're currently working on, which allocated $80,326 to the program administration category, the 15% that's allowed for public services, which is going to senior community food and nutrition program and the summer youth employment program. CDBG public improvements, $381,590 to the sidewalk replacement and improvement program, and $56,230 to the CDBG housing rehab program. City's holding a public comment period from October 11 to November 11 to give the public an opportunity to review and make comments on the draft amendment. The public hearing, which is being held this evening on the 2023 annual action plan amendment, which is held now at 5:30. And that pretty much concludes the presentation. Any comments that any of the citizens wish to make?
October 11th.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's really lovely.
Who wants to hold our comments or we want?
Yes.
We have a Commissioner Harry has
Last couple of weeks ago, Project T talked to us about the project and how fast they wanted to move forward. Now they have 19 duplexes. They're gonna be homeowners. When we talked about if we could take some of the money for community block grant money and use it for Benton Harbor residents, the first-time home buyers, we didn't know that Habitat was going to move forward with pre-approval. Now we know that they're going to do it. And my question is, can we move some of that money to give Benton Harbor first-time homeowners
Down payment.
down payment?
But should listen to the rest of the comments and at the end I'll come back and respond. Yeah.
I'm sorry. go ahead.
So you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, looking at this there, this grant and all of this regarding sidewalks too, This money is being moved.
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that I see, you got a lot of sidewalks still torn up. I'm so afraid that a few places that someone's gonna walk that's not familiar with that opening or that lift of the sidewalk is gonna trip over it. I've mentioned it once here, months ago, at that place that a tree had fell, and it lifted up the side of the sidewalk there. It's on May, right at May and McAllister. And that has not been taken care of. That prop of that sidewalk is where someone's gonna trip. There's other walks that needs to be repaired too in the community to keep your community safe. And one other thing that I see that needs to be addressed is a lot of orange bags over the water hydrants. This means that that fire hydrant is not operational. If there's a fire in that area, how are these people protected in having water to put out the fire? So these are some concerns with that money to be used for.
Thank you. First off, I heard Mr. Little mention, the public comments were from October 11 to November 11. Today is November 2nd. Have we gotten any in? And I'd like to see a listing of the sidewalks that will be done, because as it is already, I don't see the ones from the last list being done, although there's so many. But if we discuss a thing, I guess that's the thing that we anticipate on seeing work being done. My question is, and it has been for the past 20 years, there's a sidewalk with a lot of children on Apple Street that walk and play. And the sidewalks are just dismantled due to the tree roots on Apple and Colfax. Since I've been back here in the last 23 years, Colfax has been done twice. The whole street of Colfax has been done twice. And I asked past management about 6-7 years ago if in fact they could go up just a little bit further so that nobody would, because it's right there on the tree line and it's so close to, it's really, really dangerous to the point to where we're the ones that will be held liable, because these are new owners that's moved into this property within the past 20, 25 years, I think. And they complain to me about it, and I bring my complaints down here to those that are supposed to do something about it, and to no avail. I would really ask, I'm actually pleading and begging at this point, that Apple Street sidewalks are taken care of, as well as the dead trees that have brought the sidewalk up. Because they've been spending money, it looks like, trying to upgrade their property, and it's just not fair. But I will go one step further, since none of my constituents have shown up, but I carry their voices enough to stress the fact that we had quite a bit of money, some millions left, that's working now throughout the community from the lead line program of the 40 million that we were granted. And that money is being utilized now on some of the streets, and I'm pretty sure sidewalks as well. And I don't think that we should be spending the citizens' CBG money on sidewalks, period, when money is already there. In fact, we should be utilizing this money to help them buy paint, do little bitty things that they can apply for that they would like to have done to their homes, because we've talked about finding folks in the past from this committee about chip paint. So I think that this is a perfect time to possibly help them instead of putting forth something that would hurt them.
Is there any other comments from any citizen that's here that wants to comment about CDBG Community Action Plan, Annual Action Plan, sorry?
One last question.
Comment?
Well, actually, it's actually a question,
Because I'd like to know if these same questions, if we don't get them now, will we have a chance to, our elected officials ask the same questions?
So after this part, we'll
When
be able
this
to ask
comes
questions.
before the body of the elected officials, will these questions be asked again? I guess I'm just asking because I'd like to get it out of the way now. Because it just makes sense to me.
Go ahead, Mr. Duncan.
Will there be questions after he speaks and says what he has to say? Or is this the end of the citizens' comment?
This would be the end of the citizens' comments.
So whatever you said about whatever you couldn't talk about earlier, a citizen won't have a chance to have a comment about it?
The citizens are making the comments now. I would simply be attempting after the comments are closed to respond to what is being said.
Okay, well, when will the citizens have a chance to tell you what to do with our money? You guys are doing everything, and I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong or not. I'm just saying, I'm asking, when will you guys consider what the citizens' needs are instead of what you guys are coming up with on your own? I don't know if you guys are doing it all together because you guys seem so separated and argumentative about things all. And that's up there. It's not out in with the citizens. It's up there. And you guys sit up there and act like you don't know what's going on. But then when the citizen has something to say, you cut it down, you chop it up, and you guys fighting amongst each other. And I see it, and I'm gonna speak on it. And I don't like it. So if there's anything we can say, there's nothing we can say after this question is answered. So I'll just not have a question about it in advance.
Through the chair, I would like staff to explain to us about community block grant money and how it's supposed to be the citizens' money, residents' money from federal government just for citizens. So I would like someone in the staff to let everybody hear, so we'll all be on the same page as to what this money is really supposed to do. It has a lot of avenues to empower the citizen, the residents of Benton Harbor. So if somebody can share that with us, it'd be great.
Thank you.
So we won't have the opportunity to make any comments beyond this point.
Not about this
Not
hearing.
about this particular.
Yeah, you can write it in.
I don't want to write it in. I want to be able to speak it so that everyone here can understand my concern.
And
So that's
If you
what I
want to
want.
speak about CDBG funds, you can do that now, and he's going to answer your questions. He's just trying to get all of the questions so that when he responds, he'll be able to respond to every question that you had about CDBG funds.
Okay, this was just one of the, this was just a part of the minutes from the previous.
That's a separate issue. Right now, we're in a
I
public
can
hearing.
understand that.
If you'll be able to ask, if you had a question that
Yes.
wasn't at, yes,
Okay.
at the end. You want us to wait till after all of the citizens?
If the citizens are finished, as soon as you close the public hearing,
y'all made us finish.
Does anybody else have any questions or
I would-
comments?
I would request that before you close the public hearing, you at least allow Mr. Little to
He is going to.
I'm not
excuse
allowed,
me.
I'm not allowed
Did
to
you
do
just give
it.
me the floor? Well, please, let me have the floor. Thank you. I'm suggesting that before you close the public hearing, Mr. Little answers the residents' concerns before you close the public hearing. That's what I'm asking for you to do, Chair.
I can't do that.
Can't do that?
No. As soon as the public hearing's closed, I can respond.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any other questions that you want to ask about CDBG funds before the public hearing is closed?
One more question. How soon will we get the list of the sidewalks that have been targeted for repair? How soon will it be within the 30-day input period? So how soon will we get it?
Thank you. Is there any other questions, comments, Mr. Duncan?
Is it possible that a citizen can get the list of the sidewalks that have been fixed already?
Should be on the website. It's a lot of.
I'm asking the chair, and you guys are all over the place. You didn't hear the question?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
well,
So I'm making a list, but also Mr. Little is making a list so he can respond to your question. So all of the questions that are being asked will be responded to tonight. That's why I was asking, is there any other questions? Trying to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions or make any comment about what we're discussing right now before I close the public hearing. Hearing none, this public hearing is closed and the floor is Mr. Little's to respond to all of the questions that were asked tonight. Thank you.
There was a comment about a specific sidewalk that people may trip over because trees are growing up under the sidewalks and we are aware of that. We've been aware for quite some time. That's been a situation existing in the city for years and years and years. At this particular point in time, we're taking what limited resources we have and attempting to address part of the sidewalk problem. I have to say part of it because it's way too large for us to deal with in any one particular year and probably even in 5, 6 or more years. The reality is that under the city's ordinances, sidewalks really are the responsibility, just as the tree lawn in front of the house. Those are the responsibilities of the property owner, the adjacent property owner. And that's pretty much the case all over the United States. It certainly is part of our rules. Because our situation has gotten to be so expansive and that there's so many properties that are owned by people that are all over, some by the city, some by other people, under the provisions of the community development regulations, we were able to allocate money to begin trying to do some repairs to them. You will recall that several years ago, I believe even before I came back with the city, you had a sidewalk study performed by Appenmarsh, where they took a look at all the sidewalks all over the city to try to ascertain which were the worst ones and the biggest problems and so forth. And what we sat down and talked with you when we started doing this and set as a process for doing it was 2 things. We would look at that study and ascertain the ones that were in the worst shape. We would also look at the distribution of them across the wards so that we would be fair to the city and to all of you in each ward. And essentially that's what we've done. as opposed to taking all of whatever amount you've got and putting it in one ward and trying to fix it all. We spread it around so that it's fair to everybody. And that's the process that we've been doing. This was, and the one that's going on right now is the largest one that we've done, and there's sidewalks being repaired all over the city. As I ride around and look, we've got sidewalks where you see the ground pushed back from it all over the city. And when you share comments about areas that you see as particular problems, I'm making notes of these and holding those notes for when we get to do another one to try and see if we can address at least some of them in those processes. So that's what is happening with the sidewalks. As far as getting a list of the sidewalks that are done, that's not a problem. We'll have them for you within the next couple of weeks, and we'll email them out to all of the commissioners. Let's see.
CDBG fund, one of the questions that was asked,
Mhm.
explaining CDBG.
Certainly. The city, as an entitlement city, gets an award of a certain amount each year. Typically for Benton Harbor, that's in the neighborhood of about $400,000. And we're allowed to use that money with limitations on it, like 20% can be used for administration. You will recall when I came on board, that was one of the bones of contention with HUD. The fact that the 20%, which when applied to $400,000 is only $80,000. And HUD said that is not enough money to properly administer a CDBG program. And they're absolutely right, because the paperwork and the time and the rules and regulations that have to be followed, you couldn't begin to do it with that. But that's one of the allocations. Public services is a category, as I mentioned before. Programs like food and nutrition programs for the elderly, summer youth program, those are categorized as public services. You're allowed to spend no more than 15% in that category. For us, that runs right around $60,000. Then public improvements, which includes things like the sidewalk repair program, the housing rehab program, the program we're trying to do to deal with the downed trees and so forth. Those all are in the category of public improvements. Now, across those, it gives us a sheet that's 8.5 by 11 front and back. Has to, whatever we try and do, has to fit within what they consider national priorities. And they actually have a 3-digit code that it has to fit in order to do it. And then along with that, it has to match another category. It's a complex process. As a matter of fact, to give a perfect example, when I was out earlier in the spring, walking some of the areas that we had completed sidewalks to see if the work that was done, if I had any issues with it or whatever. One of the things that I noticed is just about every house that has a chain link fence in front of it, where cars drive into the driveway, the fence has been hit and bent over and looked all crazy, acey-doocy and whatnot. And that was so prevalent everywhere I looked that I asked HUD, could we put a program together using some of our money, the same basis we're doing with sidewalks, where we could take pictures of these, identify the locations, put them in a package and put them out for bid for somebody to repair them, just to make the city look better. No, that doesn't fit any of the categories. The only way you can do that is if it's part of a specific rehab on a home that's qualified and all the other. Because the problem is with that, if you had to have qualifying information on each address and the ownership of it and that kind of thing. And in this instance, we, the city, we're looking at the problem and not asking us, will you do that? So those are the kind of limitations that we work under with trying to do those. The question about the first-time homeowners, it came up before, I answered it before, I'll answer it again. No, you cannot do that in this particular situation. The reason you can't is that if we get everything resolved that has to be right now with Project T, and they got a 100% go-ahead from Michigan, it will still be between 18 and 24 months before that project is built. We're not, I don't care what they said, that's what's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen that fast. And it will take, you cannot set money aside. Excuse me a moment, please. Someone's been waiting. I'm gonna give you a call back in about 15 minutes. So you can't set that money aside like that. You're already under the gun because from the first day I got back, you had a problem with HUD because we're not spending at the rate that we're supposed to be. That's why we're pushing right now to try to get things out as we can, but it's difficult. For example, one of the programs I want to see move the worst way is the demolition. But before you can do that, we've got to get pictures of the homes and all the information on it, send it to SHPO at the state Historic Preservation Organization. They've got to clear the house and say there's no historic value and you can go ahead. Then we've got to get a hold of an environmental company that's registered with them to go to each of these properties and determine if there's asbestos in it. And if so, then a plan to get it abated first. And if not, or if it can't get into it, like some of these piles of stuff you see and so forth, then it gets rated as if it may have asbestos, because we can't say it doesn't. Then it's got to go to a class 3 landfill where you pay more than you would at a regular landfill because it might have asbestos. And once you get all of that done, then you can put out a bid and get, it's a lot to it. But that's basically how this process works. Now, something was said about the comment period. The comment period did not start tonight. The comment period began with a newspaper announcement that went in, it's over 2 weeks ago, that said that there was this major amendment was being prepared, that it would be posted on the website, it would be put at the library here at City Hall if people wanted to see it, that you could write in comments or email your comments in or whatever from that October 11th, I believe, to November 11th period, 30 days. And what was mentioned about to November 11th, that's the balance of the time is here. So you're welcome to put in those comments. Those comments are not designed to stop everything and start all over. Those comments are designed for us to take into consideration as we go forward and try and address the issues and so forth. But I'll conclude by just saying again there are significant limitations on what you can do with the money and how it gets done. And part of my responsibility is to take the comments and the suggestions and what you're trying to do and try to find a way to fit it into a program to do as much of what we can about what you're asking as we can.
Mr. So at this time, it's not public comments at the end. We haven't had a chance to ask any questions, and we do have questions written down. You wanted to start, but before I go to that, could you, how much does the city have to pay? How much does that usually cost the city when we're looking at tearing down homes? Because I know that has been something that's been coming up. How much does that usually cost the city if the homeowner doesn't have insurance? What is the cost usually to the city to have a house torn down, that we have to pay for that, with all the remediation that you just talked about?
It has varied. One of the problems is when the city has had to do homes, normally it's done homes one at a time. And when that's been done, those houses, the cost of tearing them down has ranged from anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000, $40,000. My belief is if we can get batches of 5, 8, 10 of them at one time and have all of the pre-stuff done, put them up for bid with the addresses and the regular, and what our requirements are, that we may be able to get larger demolition contractors to take a look at those and look at the whole group and price them based on the fact that they move their equipment in one day and it may be able to stay here for 2 or 3 weeks while they tear all those down, that we'll get a much better price. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish.
So when you were answering one of the questions, you had mentioned that you were like having a list, and if any sidewalk that cannot be addressed, that it may be addressed in the future.
It may and it may not. It'll depend on exactly what the situation is and where it is and how it fits into the whole thing.
Okay, because I was just wondering if you're asking people to message you or just kind of tell you those, like how are you getting the information?
We're really not seeking to get individual addresses. That's not what we want. What we want is whatever general concerns that people have.
Okay, and then I had one other question. You had mentioned, again, in response to someone's question, that is technically the homeowner's responsibility.
Yes, it is.
You mean actually like demolishing the concrete and putting new concrete down in front of your
Yes.
home? I never knew that. Okay.
Yes. Been in the charter since the beginning.
I just have another comment in terms of some of those homes. I think the one that Commissioner Adams spoke about, the city manager is aware of that, and there's been several calls about that particular project on Apple and Colfax. And so it's a really bad project. I mean, a really bad tree situation. And so, yeah. I have a couple, just go ahead. You have a couple?
Yes, Director Little, on, who oversees the sidewalks? Who goes and look at them when they're finished and to inspect them?
I begin out there doing it.
Okay, on Broadway, 775, brand new sidewalk, look great, but it's a dip. When it's come together right in a walkway, then it's a dip like that, and they was telling me to get water bills up. So just want to make sure that we, so do Abermarsh go, you look.
Yeah, Abermarsh goes with me. Yeah, we go and do it together.
Sidewalks look good. I know on Hastings where they're doing both sides of the first block, they're taking out the whole trees and it looks good. It's ADA, accessible with the sidewalks. It looks good. So good job.
Thank you. Yes, I get out with them to go look at these things. As a matter of fact, last week, we took a couple hours and went through all the alleys and so forth, looking at what was happening with them. And there again, I'll take the opportunity to mention, The city doing these alleys is again part of our attempt at recovering. Maintaining those alleys are also the responsibility of property owner. And I would hope that now that we're going through them and making them passable again and putting material down where they got a decent surface to drive on, that the property owners will get out there and cut that vegetation back that's growing out to where it's almost meeting in the middle of the alley. That's not the city's responsibility, and the city can't afford to do it.
I didn't ask the questions. How many homes have we renovated through CDBG funds? Is this document online? Those are my other questions. And did you give a list of the targeted, did you give a list of the targeted sidewalks that have already been repaired? But how many homes did we renovate? How much was spent with the public services? I know 15% was allocated. But how much did we actually spend for those programs, or did we spend it all?
We spend it all.
We spent it all. And how many homes did we renovate?
We did 3 this year under the regular CDBG program, and we did 8 under the CDBG CV, which is coronavirus program. Now, the coronavirus program doesn't do the entire house. It typically does roofs, ventilation, problems that relate to possible mold and that kind of thing. But we did, I believe, 8 homes under that program.
So we did a total of 11 homes between the 2 programs.
Yes.
So who determines, like, once they fill out an application, how does it determine which grant funding is gonna come out of, or it just, whatever is left is what it comes out of?
It depends on the nature of the work. Once the process is that when a homeowner comes in and applies, first they provide their information and we determine that they are eligible for the program. Then we go out and look and inspect the house, and we make sure that the house is eligible, and then what needs to be done. We determine what needs to be done we can do. We put that together in a set of specifications, and when the determination is made that this is a house that we're gonna do, the owner is eligible, the house is eligible, we put that out and have 3 contractors go out and look at that work and give a bid on it. And then they put all that information together and they send it over to me to review and make the determination.
I just have one final statement is when we talk about doing things for the citizens, because a lot of the things you talked about is quality of life issues,
Yes.
especially sidewalks, roads, and all of those. And I've gotten calls from somebody who's busted rims, and I think we all have gotten those calls. And I think there's a misconception about what that money is supposed to go through. And I think it would be great. It was great that you were able to talk about publicly, like, the things that we can do with those funds and how limited some of it is. But also, you also spoke about the categories. It would be great to do some kind of workshop to talk about CDBG funds and how they're used and how we've used them, and just to give an overall overview so that people don't have misconceptions about the funds. We're not using the funds for the people. When we're doing roads, sidewalks, alleyways, those affect quality of life. Those are for the people.
Absolutely.
Those are for the community, and they've been done inner city and all over the city. So they do affect the community in a way that is not doesn't feel tangible, but it is, because you drive on those roads to go to schools and those kinds of things and work. So I think just making sure that people have a clear understanding about what those things mean and how it's to be used, I think will be helpful.
Yeah, and the most absolute prohibition that applies to CDBG and basically just about all other funds is there's a rule against what the feds call substitution of funds. They do not allow us to take and use their money to do the things that city government or county government, whatever the unit is, that they would normally have to do themselves. That they won't allow, and they'll make you pay it back if it's done.
We've been in that situation, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, Director Little, part of the, I know a lot of homeowners been asking me about it, that they won't repair. The regulation states that you have to have homeowners insurance on your home to get any, you have to. I know some-
Yes.
To do any home rehab,
Yeah.
you have to have homeowners insurance to get it even started, right?
Absolutely. And we've been trying our best to work with people on that as much as we can, but the reasoning for that is that these repair jobs, when they're done, they're actually loans. They're forgivable loans is what it amounts to. If a homeowner qualifies by income and so forth, and we approve spending $25,000 doing a roof and whatever and so forth, they sign a 10-year lien in favor of the city, which is also for HUD, that they have to live in that home for that 10-year period. They cannot sell the home or rent the home or do any of these other things without triggering that loan. Each year they live in it, 1/10 of that loan is forgiven. If at year 5 they were to decide to sell the home, they can do so. But the balance of that loan has to be paid off and settled before that sale can go through. And because of that, like any loan, I don't care if you buy a car, or you buy a house or anything else, they're going to require you to have insurance on it. You buy a car, that insurance lapses, you look out to the next day, that car's on the back of somebody's truck. And they're hauling it away.
All right, I don't have any more questions. Commissioner Allen, you got your hand up to ask.
And I want to thank Mr. Little. And I think you touched base on it, Madam Chair, when I wasn't trying to be funny or it wasn't a trick question or anything. But I think that sometimes, especially, I fought for a long time to get us recorded. So, because people don't like to come down here. And COVID really has us that way, but that was educational that he explained. Because a lot of people, there is a misconception about these funds. And what people don't understand is that there was a time in the early 2000s that we got almost $1 million. Until some I didn't say that out loud, some business owners came through and swooped up some money, some funding, and they bellied up, filed bankruptcy, and didn't have to pay it back. But the citizens of Benton Harbor, with their block grant dollars, had to pay those funds back. And I think as of 2016, we paid the last 120,000, and now because prior to that, I don't think we had but like 300 and some thousand. But as Mr. Little mentioned early on, this is not a lot of money to be doing anything with. But my concern is that it's all not going towards administration fees for nothing. I think that we need to pick one big project moving forward, I would hope, to get something done for the citizens in this community. I have a concern and a question actually about now that we have a economic development director and we signed an agreement with Southwestern Michigan Action Agency, have we taken that responsibility back onto our own selves, especially after we've created 2 jobs to be filled in our planned economic development office? I guess that's pretty much it for now, other than the fact that when I think it was 1999, there was a big tree out in front of my house way before I became the elected official, and the city cut this tree down because I had a big concern when the wind was blowing and storms and stuff, how it was going, if it fell, it was going to hit the house. And it was a big tree. And when I complained about it standing right here to my elected officials, they got out there and cut that tree down. The whole thing. And I don't know what has changed then, but I guess we need to take a look at our ordinance and be able to explain to the residents exactly what they are responsible for, because some of us really don't know. And they need to be made aware of their responsibilities.
So who wanna answer that question?
Well, she's absolutely right. We do need to explain to people what their responsibility is, because if they're, have property, they've got a responsibility to maintain it. That includes everything from cutting the grass to, trimming the trees, repairing the sidewalk if it has to be done, keeping stuff out of the alleys so it's passable, and the works.
She asked the question about, what's your question?
Southwestern Michigan.
Yeah.
There's really nothing that we want to take back from Southwest Michigan Community Action Agency. What they do is collect the information and present it to us. We're reviewing it, we maintain the information, and then they have the people that have the process to do the work. When you mentioned about having two positions, we've had these two positions for now 3 years that I've been here, and haven't had anybody in them more than, shoot, I think we last year maybe had somebody in it 4 months. So that's not doing it. I'm still trying to get them filled, and I'm not getting them filled for them to build houses. I'm getting them filled in order for them to help me meet some of these record requirements that HUD requires us to do, to make sure that we got these things, all that stuff that was in that monitoring visit report that I'm sending the last letter in today on.
Madam Chair, is there something we can do to help?
There isn't.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I see that is wrong, that we have a lot of these ordinances there, but they're not enforced. Many things that you could do enforce is these alleys, when they get a lot of vegetation growing up, just send a warning to the person, and the next time have to fine them. This is one of the things of get on the JOB starts here. And one of the other things I see, you were saying that the sidewalks and should be the property owner's job to fix it. A lot of the city-owned property, there's walks are tore up. So then you're gonna fine them for the sidewalks being torn up. And even a lot of times, there's a lot of junk being thrown in there. That's why we took the garden and tried to keep that area all cleaned up and everything. So a lot of the people in the community love Benton Harbor and want to see Benton Harbor do well. But it starts here for you to follow through, and what you have on those books, enforce it.
There's another reason for us to look at the newsletter, because that's information that we can share with everyone. Some people, I had a neighbor, he would burn trash every night. I had to tell him, you can't burn trash in Benton Harbor. He said, oh, I just moved out of Benton Township. So he didn't know. This kind of information, when you talk about the newsletter, we have nothing right now. Another reason why we need the newsletter, right there.
Are you doing newsletter?
No, because we can't find the money. to do the newsletter.
Just do an electronic
It's
newsletter
got to
if
be
you want
some
to
money somewhere.
maintain the information.
Well, think about how you handle your business at home. You spend your money where your priority lies. So if you want a steak, you go and buy you a steak. If you say, no, I changed my mind, I'm gonna have chicken, that's what you do. And we do the same thing. Our priorities do not include information being shared to the residents.
If I could comment on that. It's true to the priorities issue, and you all know that general fund is where what water isn't collecting is being pulled from, what everything else that we don't have is being pulled from. It really does boil down to priorities. You're gonna pay the electric bill and keep the electric on, keep the water flowing, or whatever. And unfortunately, that's just the case. Until we can overcome these problems and begin to rebuild the general fund, we've got that problem.
The serious problem that I see, and I see that some things came up with this new attorney that we have. And one of the things that I see that is very important, and I've been preaching it for the longest, we need a finance director here. You can give something to Plant Moran to do. They're not directly responsible. You all give them whatever you want them to put on the books. But a finance director is here. Anything goes out or comes in, he's right on top of everything that happens here. Do you get that straightened out? You're gonna always have a problem.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've been sitting here listening to that comment, and I want to make sure that it is clear to everyone that we do have a finance director who does have her finger on the pulse of every penny that comes in and out of this city.
Answer to us.
Thank you,
Can
city
you
manager.
speak up so I can hear you? I don't want to hear that.
Thank you for that, Calvin. Is there any other questions, before
Yes,
we adjourn? Yes, ma'am.
yes, and I wasn't going to say anything, but, I'm going to.
Go ahead.
Because, as far as the finance director is concerned, and I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but we need a finance director to answer to the elected officials when we have a question. I'm not talking about them going through city management or anybody else. They're supposed to directly answer to this body, period, point blank.
Is there any other questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes.
There's one reason. When we located $50,000 that was allocated to fix the basement downstairs, now I can't get a conversation with anyone. And I know staff is telling me, y'all don't talk to them, but the finance director falls directly under the commission. But that is not the case what we're working under now.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Wow.
Mr. Duncan?
My question is about the driveway that we come in to the meetings. Who and what kind of funds do we need to fix this problem out here?
Driveway.
And the driveway to the city hall.
It's
Who do we
next on
talk,
the program.
excuse me,
It's next on the program.
it's next on the program.
Yes, sir.
Take place.
Just like the citizens always come up last when we
No,
don't get
we're
a
trying
chance.
to take.
I know, I need to say this.
Go ahead.
You can't drown me out and nobody else is gonna drown me out in here again. So my thought, or my hope is you guys put that on the agenda pretty fast. The weather is changing and coming in here and having a front end problem is not what I'm gonna wanna do. I went through 2 trucks doing the same thing and getting pushed to the back and not answered and all of that kind of stuff. Now, those days are over. We said we were gonna do things differently this year. The only difference I've seen is the things that you guys have actually done, and I appreciate that. But this driveway out here is a menace to our,
Society.
it's just a damn menace, and you guys drive in it every day and act like it's not there.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Mr. City Manager said that is next on the agenda, so hopefully
That's good
within
to
the
hear,
next.
thank you.
We wanted to take care of the community problems first.
It is the community problem.
Right at
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
It's right in the door.
I'm trying to answer your question.
It's answered, I told you it was answered.
Well, I wasn't done. I was trying to hear him out,
I
because it's
appreciate
respectful to
you.
hear him out, because I heard you out. So I wanted to hear him out.
We
You
got
wanna
a
argue
job.
with me?
Go ahead, Mr. City Manager. Finish what you were saying, please. Thank you.
And I thank
Thank
you
you
for,
very much.
I thank you for
Is there
answering
any
my
other
question.
questions before?
There's too much rude in here, y'all better try to get that shit
I'm
together.
hoping when we have this other stuff that we'll add somebody with a bucket and tar to do that right over my office where the water keeps falling in every time it rains.
Every time.
Every time it rains, even a little rain.
I don't think there's much wrong.
No.
Yeah,
Still there.
okay. Just sounds like.
What happened?
Unless there's any other questions or comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
That was it.
That was it.
Mr. Little, I wanted to show you a sidewalk real quick,
Okay.
just in case it could be on the next.
Two tomorrow.
City manager,
This is the top.
One to three tomorrow for the phone.
the comments
Set up.
about the drain out of.
Quiet.
Quiet.
This is